Chapter 383 of Berserk, folks. This chapter is definitely taking a lot of inspiration from Buddhist ideas, but they have been here in Berserk for quite a while now, to be fair. To recap what is going on here, Guts just got into the stupa. And if by any chance you do not know what a stupa is, because I do think it is a very important thing to know, a stupa is a Buddhist commemorative monument usually housing sacred relics associated with a Buddha or other saintly persons. Buddhist stupas were originally built to house the earthly remains of the historical Buddha and his associates, and are almost invariably found at sites sacred to Buddhism. Now, one thing that I do want to notice about stupa is that you are not supposed to go inside the stupa once it's actually done. Even Buddhist monks, what they actually do with stupas is that they actually go around the stupa and they pray. But continuing here, what happens during this chapter, Guts goes into the stupa and he finds himself fully in darkness. So much so that he can't see what the hell is going on in front of him. He stumbles and falls. And he falls into this very weird looking structure. A structure that initially I wasn't sure what the hell was I looking at, but I do think after doing a little bit of research, I know what this is. Or at least the symbology that they're going for. But first, Guts finds himself in the center of the stupa, but in complete darkness. And realizing this, it feels like he just gives up knowing this fact and falls into the middle of this structure. And while he's looking up, he also realizes that from the top of the stupa, a bunch of these blobs are coming up. Blobs that very much look like parts of the Beast of Darkness, if you ask me. Now, during this on the outside, Daiba and Silat are having a conversation that is actually really interesting. It goes as following. It's too quiet. Daiba, what is happening in that little shrine? Well now, that is a very good question. That is a peculiar sight. Its inside and outside are strongly disconnected. Even my arts cannot easily pierce that veil. This is a very interesting statement because it is saying, at least from what we know of the world of Berserk, especially since we know that there's various layers of reality, it feels to me that this stupa, whatever it is a bridge between different layers. They continue, and this is probably the most interesting bit. Of course, within is a void. What madness might its darkness bring forth? These are very specific words that Daiba is using. One of them is void. So I am wondering if we are not going to see a confrontation from Guts with the void in the next chapters. This is actually leading me to believe that Guts might just go all the way to the abyss, the deepest layer of the astral world. Because it's in the deepest and darkest moments of our lives that we can find ourselves. And even Daiba corroborates exactly this idea. In darkness, without sight, without sound, there is but one thing to do. There is not to gaze into, but the self. There is nothing to look at, but just ourselves. And is there anything harder to do in our own lives than to gaze and look exactly in the mirror to who we actually are? And if Guts really wants to fix his mental status right now, I think the only choice that he has is to face himself in the abyss, most likely. Especially if he wants to tame in some sort of way the Beast of Darkness. This shot right here showcases to us the full extent of where the hell Guts is at the moment. And I think, at least from the research that I've done, that this is most likely a lily pad. A lily pad that in a Japanese culture, it is very much associated with the lotus flower. And the lotus flower is a big symbol in Japan of rebirth. I do want to point out that initially when I saw this scene, I was reminded of what happened back when Skull Knight tried to kill Femto. Femto used the sword of Skull Knight in order to open a rift between the astral world and the physical world. But it's interesting because a lot of this texture from Ganishka feels like it's somewhat similar to what happens in that lily pad. You can see that there's like a middle part that, and all of this is going through to this like spine here, or whatever you want to call it. And it feels to me like the same is happening here, right? You have like this middle area and everything is flowing into that middle part. Is there a parallel there? Probably, but I do believe that at the very least, these two are the same in the sense that their function is to be a door to open a new reality, to reach the spiritual world. Now, this part is also just a wow. It really showcases how mentally broken Guts really is. You see that the Beast of Darkness is getting into more and more and going down to get Guts. It goes into a point where Guts actually reaches out to the Beast of Darkness. This is how broken Guts is. Guts is at a point where he just conceded completely, it feels like. We see here that all of this like strands of hair or whatever, or fur in this case, are really getting into Guts. But something happens here. I'm not entirely sure what happens, but it feels like all of this fur or whatever is actually being expelled out of Guts, right? Something or someone just saved Guts from the Beast of Darkness. Then we see this little fainted light with two shadows, and Guts hums the word finally. And we get this beautiful dual shot here. It is interesting because I feel like on the left side, this shot is like the ideal, the good memories that Guts has from both of these characters that he so much still loves, Casca and Griffith. But on the right side, you have some of the worst moments, some of the deepest and most vile emotions from Guts towards especially Griffith. Now, it's interesting that they are putting this hand right here. I think this is a throwback to Skull Knight's past, because I think there's a shot where the exact same thing is happening. In the next shot, the lily pad disappears, and Guts is basically just engulfed in this water, and he goes all the way down to the point that he is captured or something by a huge clamp that basically shuts him down. And it says here on the right side, swallowed by the black, what will Guts see as he sinks ever deeper? And I truly believe that now he's going into one of the deepest, if not the deepest, of the astral realms, most likely the abyss, where he might just have a confrontation with the void and probably the Beast of Darkness. I do want to mention water is a big symbol in Japan, to the point that ponds are like seen as this separation between the world of the living and the world of the dead. And to me, all of this that is going on right now is definitely this representation of him going from the world of the living to the world of the dead. All of this symbology of lily pads and lotus flowers is really giving me the impression, whatever happens in the bottom, when he comes up once again, all the way to this lily pad right here on the stupa, we might see some sort of visual representation of a lotus flower that will be a representation of the rebirth of Guts, whatever that means. Honestly, this is reminding me of one specific Final Fantasy, and it wouldn't surprise me that we would even see like a Guts that has like full white armor, even complete white hair, you know, a transformation from this harbinger of darkness to a warrior of light. If you know the Final Fantasy, you know exactly which one I'm talking about. I'm not going to spoil it. I do want to mention one thing. Sometimes I have the feeling that a lot of people, a lot of fans from Berserk, are thinking that we are finally going to see like one last confrontation between Guts and Griffith, and, you know, Guts is going to go full-on beast mode, Berserk mode, with a Beast of Darkness, and he's going to fight Griffith and kill him, right? And I think that is the furthest away from the truth of what is going to happen in this manga, right? Maybe it will. I don't believe it at the very least. This manga, it has been showcasing to us that Guts is coming from a place of revenge and rage to a place of harmony and peace and tranquility of the mind. And I think this is the tipping point to see that transformation. And I don't believe that Guts will kill Griffiths in the traditional sense. We might still see a final showdown confrontation of fighting, but it won't be in the traditional way. I don't think Guts even wins against Griffith just because of the amount of power Griffith has. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see something along the lines of Guts coming in and saying, I don't want to fight anymore, I'm dropping my weapons. But maybe that pisses off Griffith to a point where he even showcases his true nature, a femto, a demonic creature. And maybe the death of Guts is actually necessary to showcase that. To showcase that a man that did not want to fight anymore, that had conceded everything, still died at the hand of the one person that the world believed was the savior of the world. All that I'm trying to say here is that I don't think Griffith dies in the traditional sense. I think the way that Griffith is going down is that his dream will be shattered. At the end of the day, the dream of Griffith was to be in the physical world and have a kingdom that he ruled. But if that dream is shattered and destroyed, there is nothing but a hollow husk of this man. That is a fate worse than death for Griffith. Honestly, it even makes more sense to me that Raksha, if Griffith dies in the traditional sense, it will be Raksha or even Zod killing him. I do wonder how much of Kentaro Miura is in this chapter. At least when it comes to the conversations. These conversations are really, really well done. I actually really enjoyed this chapter. This has been probably one of my favorite chapters since Studio Gaga took over. It's really well done, I would say. But yeah, folks, that's it from me. This was a really interesting chapter, I have to say. But yeah, I'll see you folks whenever 384 comes out, probably like in 5 years. All right, folks. Hope you guys have a good one. See ya.